Hi, I'm Gemma.
Hi, I'm Matty.
And welcome to Around the Block,
a podcast by Stammer, aka the British Stammering Association.
And we are back with a whole new series of stammering. Hello, hello.
Hello, we are back.
We are. Oh my gosh.
It's been ages, hasn't it?
I know. It feels like months since I've...
Like, it absolutely has been. Look, I've
stared
missed
at you.
this, and I've missed this chat, you know?
Yeah, I've thought of so many things like, oh gosh, I wish... Do you know what you mean when you just need like a podcast like every day of your life? Because you just have one thing to talk about, then you just need to broadcast it to the world.
It sounds like you need your own podcast that's alongside this podcast.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Or in fact, I'll just quit this one, start my own.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, this is fair enough. Have you had a good, I guess, summertime?
Yeah, it's been all right. It hasn't really felt like a proper summer. Moan about the weather, typical English thing to do.
Any news?
No news. I'm actually just looking at buying my first house, so that's very exciting.
Come on.
Woohoo!
Great.
And I just started CBT for my social anxiety around my stammer, so I feel like that's a whole other episode.
Well, let's hope that therapy works.
Yeah. I feel like we should definitely do a whole separate episode on this whole thing. But anyway, how's your summer been?
I mean, in sort of trying to do prep for this podcast, I have really tried to think of like the biggest thing that's happened since I've been away. And I think genuinely I've shaved my beard off, and that's probably the most exciting thing that's happened to me in 2 and a bit months. So I will intro what we're talking about. Because it's the season, we're going to talk about Freshers Week.
I thought you were going to say Christmas time, because you said because it's the season.
Look, there is far more than just one season, Gemma.
There's seasons for all throughout
Except
the year.
All seasons is the message I'm trying to put forward.
And this is the season where you get blathered. Well, actually, no, that's Christmas time as well. But Freshers is such a messy time, isn't it? I remember my week.
It really is. So we thought that we'd just talk about our experiences of freshers as individuals who stammer, any stresses, which I'm sure there were a lot for both of us, and just sort of how we coped and what we wished that we'd done differently, I suppose.
Yeah. In fact, I don't even think I know where you went to university.
I went to the University of Roehampton in 2015 to study sociology. So that's pretty much where all of these thoughts and stories have come from, because I remember it. How about you, Jem?
Oh God, I hate when anyone asks me where my university.
Yeah, me too.
Where I went to university, because this is the hardest thing to say. I picked the hardest place to say on purpose.
Just to challenge yourself, right?
Yeah, just to throw an extra little stress in my life. I went to Royal Holloway.
Nice.
I mean, I remember that first day, my mum driving me, and just how anxious I was unbelievable. I felt like my stomach could explode. Like, I was so excited as well, though. I was so excited because I was finally going to university, but I was so anxious because I knew I'd have, like, coming from your secondary school, when everyone knows you and it's so comfortable, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Comfortable. And I think to go from that, where in like the teachers are so like hands-on, and just to go in, it just seems like a massive step. And I knew I'd have to say my name and introduce myself, and on top of that you have all these stresses about, are you going to fit in, are you going to find friends, what's it going to be like living away from home for the first time? And I mean, And also, I mean, I think my biggest stress on the car ride there was that I was sharing a room with someone. So I knew immediately when I got there, the first thing I was have to do would introduce myself, and bear in mind, I was still in this time of my life where I hadn't talked about my stammer to anyone. Like I tried to hide it. Like I literally didn't go for any speech therapy, didn't talk about it with my mum and dad, like no one. So for me it was really like so much internal fear that I had, and it's funny because I was not even thinking about, oh my god, I'm going to be sharing a room with a freaking stranger. Like what if I hate them? What if they're weird? And do you know those like moments on like TV shows, like American ones, because they always share rooms, I guess, in American. They walk in and it's like death, like gothic, like stuff on the wall. And I was like, what if she's a weirdo?
Yeah. And so were you told who the person was beforehand?
No.
You weren't told. And was it definite? Like, were they going to be female, like guaranteed, or
yeah? I mean,
had like same sex rooms.
She was lovely, in fact, and my mum being there, she always had introduced me for my whole life, because obviously she knew how difficult it was for me. So she actually introduced me, and I was going to go on to say that I was so anxious about that moment, and it's so funny how these things are over in a heartbeat. And
yeah, absolutely.
no one in the room like knew. Do you know what I mean? Like no one, she didn't know, my mum didn't know, like, but it's just me having this such internal fear that actually is just all in my head. And also then I had an immediate like friend, so it just made the whole week so much easier. I mean, that night we went to like a party together, and it was just so easy because I had her, and I thought sharing a room with the person is going to be like the worst thing. And now I look back and I think I don't even know if I would have gone to any parties if it wasn't for her. I would have just like shut myself in my room because I was so scared. But because I went with her and she introduced me, and it
just have a sort of crutch.
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's brilliant.
I mean, yeah, it's such a blessing in disguise, but yeah.
And are you still in touch with her?
No, I'm not, unfortunately. I see her on Facebook, but she actually dropped out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She dropped out.
How much of that was you, do you think?
I think probably like 98%.
Really? It's low.
No.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, we definitely had our problems, as I feel like anyone who lived with each other would.
It's weird. Like, it's really, really intense on top of all the stresses and all the anxieties to then just be shut in a room with one person. It's weird. It's weird enough to go into a flat of 6 or however it is, but the idea of having to share a room with somebody, not into that.
That's the other thing, because for you and for like my friends, I could not deal with the anxiety of going into halls and like sharing a flat, because obviously you're going to have to meet 6 people at once on that first day. And if you think I had an easy like stepping stone, I mean, I don't know what that was like for you, but it must have been horrendous.
So I was late to Freshers Week. I was pretty much 3 days late to Freshers Week. I'd been just a really good friend of mine, Angus, and I had been at a festival on the Isle of Wight. It was either the Isle of Wight Festival or there's another one I have had there, which ran for Friday till the Sunday prior to Freshers Week. So Freshers Week began that Monday when we had booked to get on the ferry at like 1 a.m. on essentially Monday morning. Then we were going to drive back from I guess the Devon coast back to Bristol for me to then pack my stuff up and go over to Roehampton like Tuesday morning. And so we get on this ferry. The ferry ride is an absolute chaos. like fights, people smoking indoors, like
It sounds like Freshers Week
yeah,
on the
essentially,
ferry.
but like a little bit more chaotic, I think. We then get in the car and start the 3-hour journey. Within an hour of which the car breaks down.
Oh my
just like
gosh.
a completely destroyed tire. So the 3-hour journey takes us 6-7 hours essentially. So I pretty much just go home and just sleep basically for like 36 straight hours and just turn up like 3 days later like I'm sorry, but I've basically missed everything. But at that point, one, I had quite a like interesting story to tell people, and suddenly I was like the interesting person who turned up late.
Yeah, like the cool one who was off at a festival.
Cool is a little bit of a stretch, but yeah, I was like the interesting one. And everybody had sort of established, everyone was sort of beginning to get used to living together. The introductions to each person, yeah, I mean, I stammered through it every single time. There were two people. There was a girl called Katie, who's probably the closest friend. No, she's probably the closest friend that I made at uni. And then a girl called Julia, who I'm not particularly in touch with, but myself and Katie just got on within like an hour, and we just, probably because we were the two that smoked, and we just hung out. We pretty much did all of Freshers Week together, just us. So this might be how you felt, but the actual anxiety prior to the first week of uni was, in my experience, worse than the reality of it. I stressed so much about it. It sounds as if you were both very, very anxious and also quite excited about the prospect of just new people and independence and all of that. What was your sort of one strongest like emotion in that first week, do you think?
I think just consciously being anxious like the whole time, and not consciously constantly, because I wasn't conscious of, I thought perhaps it was excitement, but now looking back I think it was a mixture. And of course, like at that time of my life I wanted to like party and get drunk, and I was competing with that side of me that's very sociable. I'm sure you are the same, where as a stammerer and as an extrovert it's such a contrast, because you're fighting with your inner voice, or that dread that you feel in the pit of your stomach, but then your mind is like, go on, go and make friends, and that's like my go-to, that's like who I am. And there was also a part of me that just wanted to shut myself off, and I think I did. I mean, I didn't go to any classes for the first week. And everybody thought I was like doing it because I was like too cool, because I was drunk every night, like up all night and partying and making friends, and everyone thought I was so cool, which is so cringy to say it now.
That just seems insane, doesn't it? But like, we used to think that was a cool way to behave.
No, but the thing is, I wasn't doing it because I wanted to be cool. I was doing it because I didn't want to go to my first drama classes, which I knew would be brutal in terms of introducing yourself. They probably make you get up and perform saying your name. So I was like, hell no. And I remember not even really even acknowledging that I was doing it, because it was always my go-to thing at school. If there was a new teacher or a new class or a new year, I would just bunk off like the first class to avoid saying
same here,
my name. I mean, I feel bad saying it because I don't want people listening to be like, I'll just bunk off. But at the time there wasn't much. There's a lot more support, I'd like to think, now at university. I think there's a real cultural shift, even from the time that we were, which was like, I'm 26, so 6 years ago, 7
Yeah, 5-6 years ago.
years ago. So there's a lot that's changed, and I think as much as I look back and I think, God, I wish I'd taken advantage and jumped in. I think also that was what I had to do to protect myself at the time. I think it was just too much because it was the first week and everything's new and living alone and not having like my friends who understood me. And I think it was what I needed to do at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I certainly remember that there was, that there was like support that I could have accessed for my stammer, for like, I guess just in like, I never really explored it to know what sort of form it took, because I never really considered that they'd be able to do anything to remedy what I was anxious about. Like, what can they do about me not wanting to introduce myself to people? Like, I don't want just someone else to come in and like introduce me as if I'm like a child who has just moved schools when I'm like, I don't know, when I'm like 10, you know?
Oh my God, I'd love that, like a minder throughout my life. Do you know what I mean? Like just to come in at any time and introduce. No, but you're right. It would make you look like a bit of a weirdo.
Like, I think, well, so I broadly did the same thing as you. Like, I knew full well that essentially the first thing that any module, any class would do is they would have students stand up and tell you their name, where they're from, and like an interesting thing about you, which is, I'm really trying not to swear about this, but that is an insane thing to do. And yet I sort of wish that I had just got up and owned it, you know? And I think that if I were to redo it, then I'd just stand up and I'd probably make that the interesting thing about me. And I'd probably make light of it as well and be like, look, so I would say something along the lines of that I'm actually going to flip the order of this, and I'm going to start with something start with a fact about me. I have a stammer. These next two facts, categories, whatever, are going to be an absolute pain. So strap in. But I mean, it's much easier to say that now rather than in a room of complete strangers, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, by the way, that's a really great tip. I mean, that's a really good idea, because I always, I always think, what's my weird fact? I always say my web toe, because I've got a web toe.
Have people asked you if they can see the web toe?
Oh yeah, I get it out all the time.
Do you?
Yeah.
How come I haven't ever seen it?
Anytime. I mean, yeah. Why haven't you? I've literally shown everyone. I mean, I was doing my old job at ITV Sport in the middle of I was doing ITV racing in the middle of York Festival in the parade ring. All the cameramen asked to see my web toe, so I literally took off my shoe and showed them.
Strange.
And they're all
staying
around.
Yeah.
No. Imagine. Well, next time we see each other, definitely.
Yeah, show me, definitely.
Whip out the web toe.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a really good tip to integrate it and make it something that's unique and quirky. But you're right, saying that when you've already got so much on your mind, and I think it's a manageable thing to do, like in your normal life. Say if I was going for a job interview, I might disclose in that way. But going to university and everything is so new and it's unknown, and you don't have the support, you don't have your friends or your crutch. I think it's so easy for us to say, throw yourself into it, just do it. I wish I just blur. And it's like, well, actually, maybe that's not the most realistic thing. I think a realistic piece of advice, even to my previous self, was like, just take it little steps at a time. So like if you can introduce yourself to one person in your halls or in your flat, and maybe just like after you've been chatting for a bit, just disclose to them, and then you have that person that's on your side and understands, and then when you go to a bigger party or whatever, then perhaps they could introduce you. I'm not saying rely on everyone else, but sometimes you've got to use the people around you so it just feels less on you. And I mean, I think university, I'm not trying to scare everyone, but it can be quite isolating because it's so different, and it can just feel like you're struggling a lot internally. I know I did, and all anyone is doing is working hard and getting drunk. It's not really like that healthy. So I think you need to really find the people who can support you. And also, I mean, a good thing is that also if you introduce yourself to someone and they laugh at you or they don't give you a reaction that you want, you instantly know that's not the person that I want to hang out with. As much as I also think, well, those people, I'm not really judging them because they don't really know. And like, I'm sure they're lovely, perhaps. They're no, I'm kidding. I'm sure they're lovely. They just are feeling like they don't know how to react. But if it makes you feel uncomfortable, you go, well, that's the person that I don't want to be with, And I think, I mean, I don't want to sound so mean, but I sort of made some unhealthy friends, I think, at university, and that not took the piss out of my stammer, but took the piss out of other people who stammered, and that made me feel so isolated, and it felt like I was hiding this thing because I had friends around me that laughed at like disability, and I kind of wish that I knew that before I became investing all my time in them, because do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm not trying to shame them because I know that if they hear this, they would be like upset, of course. But yeah, you could see it as a good thing. Like it's a marker as to who you want to hang out with. As Stammerers, we really need that community because there's not a lot of us.
Yeah, definitely. You will meet so many people during freshers. So if you meet some people who you don't connect with or you have bad experiences with, as tricky as it is to sort of let things go, if you can do that, then do that, because chances are you are never going to see these people again or remember their names, and they are not going to remember you.
And there's also a good chance that you'll meet your friends for life. I know I did. I met like my best friend. I met her, and she's like my sister, and she really, in fact, she's the most important person I have in terms of my stammering, like becoming okay with it. So, you might meet someone who is absolutely like amazing and gets it. So I think be open and be optimistic. But there's all these social groups. There's like societies that you can join. I think if you're an out there person, you're super brave. I mean, I would start a stammering society. Like, do you know what I mean? Because there's if what is it 1% of adults who have stammer? I don't know
something around that.
I mean, I can't do the math of how many people are at university and how many that means. But that's probably okay. 1 to 3% our producer Naheem just told us, but yeah, that's definitely like, I don't know, 50-ish. Do you think?
That is such a hard question. I have no idea, but it is going to be more than one in any case. And that just person,
a society of two people.
But like the point I'm making is that person is also going to want the support. So even if it is two, you're both supporting each other.
Yeah,
and that's worthwhile, right? Entirely. So was that what you did in that first week when there's so many like events and course events and introductory stuff on? Was that stuff that you really sort of try to get involved with, or did you just no thank you, stayed completely away?
Yeah, no, I avoided it like it was
COVID. Sorry.
Exactly what I was going to say.
I thought I was going to make a fun joke, but now I just interrupted you.
No, that's exactly what I was about to say. You actually filled in my word for me, which is actually handy.
Which is bad. No, I mean, that's not at all acceptable.
Not when you take my joke, but it's handy. But I just I shut myself off. I didn't join any societies, and as a drama student, you were kind of expected to join like the drama society and do plays, and I didn't do any of that because I'd have to audition in front of people I didn't know, and that was my worst fear, because at secondary school it's so comfortable, I'd get a part just based on what I played in the last. If I played the lead in the last play, I'm probably gonna get a chance. I'm gonna get the lead again. I'm gonna get the lead. But then in university, I just...
What voice is that? What?
It's my acting voice. And I just became so different to who I was. I became really avoiding everything. And I mean, I avoided one class. So I avoided every single class, first class in that first week. And then one of the modules, it got so bad because I really didn't want to go. It got so bad to the point where I missed the whole first term. And then
wow, that is outrageous.
And everyone thought I was so cool, like bad girl. They were like, "Oh, Gemma's so funny. She like just rocked up to this term halfway through." And then I rocked up, and the teacher was like, "Where have you been?" And I just said, "Oh, I was really ill last term," which is really f***ed up because I was implying that I was ill for a long time.
Yeah, like a serious illness.
Yeah, but that's how bad it was. Like, and I just felt like I wasn't really myself throughout my whole university experience. I really just became this like person who just wanted to hide away, and then I was quite destructive going out and drinking a lot. But yeah.
And so what do you think you would do differently? Like if you had the time again?
God, that's so tricky. I think first of all, I would reach out for help, because my anxiety, my depression.
To the uni? Before?
Yeah. I would rely on them a lot more. Because, even if we're talking about linking up with other stammerers, but there's other people who have social anxiety that get all the feelings that we have. And, you could, I'm sure there's a society that's for anxiety. That rhymed.
There is a really, really good pun in there somewhere.
Join the society for anxiety.
Yeah,
we're your piety.
Society.
What I was going to ask you is that, do you have any horror stories? Have you missed out a whole term of your classes, or how did you deal with it?
I didn't do anything quite as drastic as miss out an entire term, nothing like that. I would consistently miss the first day or so.
I feel like that's a compulsory thing as a stammerer. It's just compulsory. Just miss the first class.
And then I just turn up, and I just would sort of purposely sit quite far back and like away from people, so to not
don't engage
chat to people. Yeah. Like I would really keep myself quite closed off. I used to purposely turn up like a minute or so late to avoid that like really awkward small talk that's like happens like directly outside of a classroom. It's just like so awkward.
I do that on Zoom now. When you and someone else, and you just keep it loading. It's the
worst.
You can keep it loading, and but before you actually click join, you can see. Yeah, so I keep it loading for ages until someone else joins.
You've got to teach me for like the prep sessions for this podcast.
It's all little hacks for social anxiety. And anyway,
social anxiety hacks. But in terms of what I wish I'd done differently, like I keep coming back to I do wish that I'd just put myself out there a little bit more. And I do wish that I'd just been a bit braver, because the times when I was braver with certain people, with classrooms, with presentations, with whatever, like the horror story that I imagined happening never really happened. So I do very much wish that I was just a little bit more out there, and that I threw myself into the student experience a little bit more than I did. I went to uni when I turned 25 during the first term of university, and I'd kind of done the clubbing, I'd kind of done the drinking. Like I didn't want to go to an extremely crap student night on like a Monday night. Like that, like very thought about now makes me almost like recoil in horror. And it did then as well. And it did mean that I missed out on things. Because if all your friends are going and you're like, you know what? I almost thought I was a bit too cool for it. I thought I was a bit past it. And I think, what did that ego get me? Nothing. Like significantly fewer friends.
I think you said a really good point there, that if you avoid things, it just becomes worse and worse and worse. But I think what we're talking about is building up slowly to the point where, you know, you might have to give a presentation in class. And I think ask your tutor for help. Speak to your lecturer. I mean, I know it's a very isolating experience and it's quite independent, but these people are here to help you and you're paying a lot of money, like a lot of money. So I would say use the tools, like use them for their time and their support. They are trained in this as well. I'm guessing they're trained in supporting people with like all different
someone
needs.
Is going to be,
absolutely. They might be able to point you in the direction.
And because it means that you can take the little wins where you get them, and you build up your confidence by taking the best that you can from any situation, right? And like, although the avoidance and although that probably saved me a couple of quite awkward, times or some short-term pain, it didn't build any sort of self-belief at all. I do regret it.
It's definitely that we're saving our feelings in the short term, but in the long term it makes it so much worse. So that's what we got to think of, that and it's hard to see sometimes because as Stammerers we get so wrapped up in the little things, but the long term and the end game is so much larger than this one time I have to introduce myself and I'm feeling anxious, because in the long term you don't want to be, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be feeling like this for the rest of my life. I want to work on it and I want to improve, and the only way that does is by taking those small steps. And in terms of regretting it though, I know that you say that, but also I think, isn't it amazing that we're here now doing this? And I don't know if I would be doing a podcast if I hadn't been so shameful for my whole life, and now to the point where I'm passionate about change. I'm passionate about changing like society for Stammerers to come and being that representation that we didn't have.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, I don't think we could ever really know how much our past behavior affects where we are now, but ultimately it has led us to where we are now. So it's done us good. And I know that if we were going to university again now, then we would take less lessons from it and we would do things differently. If you could give just one tip to anybody who is about to start a freshers, what would it be?
Reach out for help. What about you?
I think that's a pretty good one. Like, genuinely go to the freshers events. Like, just go to them, and if they're crap, then leave. But you haven't lost anything from just doing it, and you might gain a whole lot. You might gain a whole load of stuff from it. So yeah, do it, I think.
And don't drink too much. Don't take empty. Don't take any drugs that are offered to you. Don't take drugs. That's my tip. You want to remember it and be in the moment. But anyway. So now we've got a very special recording from Claire Maillet. Claire is actually the founder of Stuck, which is the Stammerers through University Consultancy, which was actually set up to support people who stammer in higher education, which is amazing. And she's been good enough to record some tips and advice for anyone starting university.
University can be a nerve-wracking time for anyone, let alone someone with a disability. There is an unseen pressure to flourish academically as well as be social butterflies in order to obtain a good degree and make long-life friends. However, for those who have a communication difficulty or difference, this may seem impossible. But let's focus on the first couple of weeks at university from a social perspective. That newbie feeling is amplified when you first arrive. A new place, new people, a new sense of independence. You'll be faced with many scenarios which, to a person who stammers, may feel beyond daunting. Freshers' fairs, orientations and introductions, campus tours, society events, and meet and greets. As someone who has been there and done that, here are some of my tips for helping you conquer Freshers' Week. Firstly, as someone with a stammer, you are exempt from wearing a face mask because you have a disability. There are online resources which you can use, such as badges and cards, explaining why you are exempt. However, whether or not you decide to wear a face mask is down to you. Secondly, the Stammer website features wallet-sized cards, which clearly state the message, I stammer. Don't be afraid to obtain some of these. They come in both a physical and a downloadable format, and keep them on you when going on these ventures. So that if you feel like you're going to stammer, or if you do stammer, you can present this card to whoever you're talking to. This can act as a block breaker to help put you at ease. Finally, you can disclose your stammer to staff, students, and disability services. Now, when it comes to disability disclosure, this is a very personal thing. Some people may never disclose during their time at university, some wish to do so as soon as they arrive, and some do so at a later stage. Remember, there is no right or wrong time to do so, and it is up to you whether you do so. However, there are some advantages of doing so sooner rather than later. If you do disclose to staff and the university's disability or student support service, they are obliged to help you and provide support where they can. And remember, you are entitled to support under the Equalities Act 2010. No matter what happens, be proud of how far you have come to be in this position, to be at university or college embarking on a new adventure. Rather than focusing on the whole degree or the whole year, take it day by day or week by week. It may take you longer to say what you want to say, but your words are just as important as everyone else's.
Right, so that was from Claire. A big thanks to her for that. You can go on her website, well, the Stuck website, at stuck-uk.org, which is spelled stuc-uk.org. There are also tips for how to cope at uni and college on stammer.org. And you can also phone the Stammer helpline or use the web chat for any of your needs at all. Just go to stammer.org for full details. I guess that's us done for today.
All done.
Thank you for listening. And we'll speak to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.